impromptu Saturday morning chat with you here in our group while I wait for another video that I just got off of to download to my computer. I wanted to talk real quick. This is going to be super short because my family is expecting me. But like I said, I'm waiting for something to download on my computer. Moon misconceptions. Okay. I have seen so much stuff in this group on social media, all the stuff about the moon and this eclipse and the blood moon and like the north node and the south node and the nodes and whatever and toxic stuff. And so I just wanted to just come and like give my 2 cents on this thing for what it's worth. So those of you who are in the group but maybe don't know me super well, I feel free to say hi too. Let me know you're here. I'm Sarah, founder of Sisters Enchanted. Oh, hi Jen, you know me. So I have been, okay, what's really interesting is there's been this rise of, hey Amanda, magic, making, witchcraft, woo-woo stuff in the last few years, right? Well, I have been learning about witchcraft and magic for 17 years. It's not new to me. Doing it publicly is newer to me, but it's not new to me, like, you know, overall. And I love this stuff so much that when I was in college, I would take all of these like ancient history classes, and I minored in things like psychology and sociology and what's relevant about this? My point is I look at everything from multiple lenses, right? So I'll look at the moon and this blood moon and the eclipse. I'll look at all this stuff from multiple lenses. So from like my witchcraft lens and a science lens and a history lens and all of this stuff. And that's how I kind of think about how things work and what I should think about it, what I should feel like is true about it. So firstly, the idea that a moon or moon energy would be toxic to anybody is, to me, just like silly. So when we look at science, scientists have studied lunar relationships and the moon here, like the moon and what it does to us on Earth. And so what science has found, and this is like, it's actually like really contrary to what a lot of people talk about, and it's actually contrary to what I talk about too. So scientists have found, and we know this to be true, right, that the moon impacts the water a lot, and it impacts the tides and the waves. We also know that we are, like 70% water or something, but science has also shown that it doesn't exactly have the same effect on us as it does on water. And the reason is because water in us it's closed in, right? It's not just like free flowing. So it is a little bit different than actual water. And so to think that a moon energy is going to do something toxic to us or crystals or anything, it's like the science isn't there, firstly. And then secondly, when it comes to like the blood moon and the idea of the blood moon being some kind of scary thing that our ancestors would have hidden from or something like that. So when we look at this idea of ancestors and cultural beliefs around moons and things like that, you kind of have to look at, we all come from different places in the world, right? And there's all these different cultures and whatnot. And so we really don't know. We can kind of, people study this, people look at you know, like artifacts and whatnot, and they study this, but so pre-written history, we don't really know what people thought of the moon. There are things that we know that there's structures that have been built where people marked the equinoxes, because we know that like there are only 2 times in the world where structures line up and the light pours through it. So we know from things like that people did follow the sky and the equinoxes, but we don't know exactly like what the ancient Celts did or the ancient whoever did, right? We don't know exactly. We can only put pieces together and assume things. So something like a red moon in the sky, think about a culture that doesn't have science and doesn't have, you know, they don't have books to be, or predictions to be like, okay, so we're going to have a blood moon and this, you know, like, and it's going to look red or whatever. They didn't have that to know that. They would follow seasons, certainly, and perhaps they would say like, okay, so every season at this time or every so many years, there's this thing happens, but that would have relied heavily on the person that contained that knowledge to live enough years to relay that to those people. So again, like, we don't really know that they would have even known that. So think about it though, like, if you didn't know anything about anything and all of a sudden there's a big red moon in the sky, you know, there's a couple things that come to my mind anyway. Like, maybe you'd get scared and you'd hide out. Probably you'd spend time with your loved ones. Probably you would, those people would probably like be saying prayers to whatever their gods and goddesses were, right? To keep them alive through that, if they were scared of it anyway. I don't know what they were, but if they were, that's something that they would be doing. But they certainly, I don't think, would be like, you know, like batten down your things. I don't know. I feel like they would probably be outside honoring like the land and be like, land, keep us safe or something like that. Not like, I don't know, like building a bunker. Maybe they build bunkers. Who knows? My point is there's all of these moon misconceptions out there, and none of it is really based in any kind of like thing that we can actually see would have some kind of harm on us. And then also when it comes to calling the red moon the blood moon, there are also like tons and tons of different Aboriginal and Native American names for different full moons, right? And so they would go with the seasons. So some people would refer to them as the blood moon actually later in the season when we're harvesting and hunting. And when we're hunting and we're like, you know, you're hunting and then there's like blood naturally, and preparing for the winter again, like that would be the blood moon. And that wouldn't be a bad thing, because that is gonna keep you alive through the dark months, through the winter months, right? And the dark months, like that scared ancient freaking people, because it's cold and they don't have shelter, and there's no animals and there's no plants, and they're just like, God, goddess, Mother Earth, like whatever, help us survive this dark season, right? Like that's what they're scared of, these dark months. Which is why when we come to Samhain here in the northern hemisphere and we welcome in the dark months, or even in the southern hemisphere, and when you welcome in the dark months, that's why it's more of a it's like an ancestral time, and you're calling upon somebody to help save you and keep you alive through these dark months, like teamwork, people. And why we get so excited around Beltane when the light comes back and we're like, yeah, we freaking survived. And that's like when people are really gonna, you know, get amped up. But so when we think about all these terms, like the blood moon, and it's an eclipse, and it's this, and it's that, and then the eclipse too, you think about the eclipse, it's only seen in certain parts of the world. So the rest of us, like if we're really going to connect ourselves to like ancient civilizations and what are like the ancient people would have done, like whoever you're from. So I'm Irish, English, German mostly. If the eclipse wasn't visible to my ancestors, they wouldn't have known that there was an eclipse. They wouldn't have had no idea, right? They would have just been going about their lives, not scared of energies of an eclipse or anything like that. They would have just been like, oh, it's a full moon, and what do we do at full moons? The light's shining, you know, we stay up later, I don't know, whatever they did at full moons. They wouldn't have been scared of that eclipse. So what happens, I see a lot in this magical community, is that it's like we take bits of like bits of pop culture witchcraft, and then bits of like new witchcraft, which things like Wicca. Wicca was created like really became mainstream in the 50s and 60s here, like in our Western world. That's really new. Wicca is new. It's like not ancient. It's new. It's based in ancient things, but it's new. So we take these like new ideas, and we take science, and we're taking like woo-woo spirituality, where we're all like goddess circles and like synced up menstruation and stuff like that. Like we take all these bits and pieces, and then people put it into this bubble, and they're like create some kind of information with it, which is fine, I suppose. But then when people think it's toxic and bad for you, then I'm like, well, now it's not fine anymore. So, you know, you can do whatever feels good for you. And anytime anybody is like, absolutely don't do this, absolutely don't do that, that is always like a big red flag to me to like go mind my own business. Because, you know, yeah, so we know now by science that like you couldn't see an eclipse here where I am, but I know because of science that there was an eclipse happening, right? This week for me has been hugely transformative in my house in an amazingly positive way. Like, this week has brought so much positivity into my home life that for the past 2 years we've been struggling with things that this week have like completely turned on their head. And so for me, there is like nothing bad about this eclipse blood moon situation at all. And then like even again with the blood moon thing, right? Like I said, really like the blood moon, if you're looking at different Aboriginal cultures, Native American cultures, that's like there's other moons called the blood moon, but those moons also have a bunch of other names. You can find any full moon and it's gonna have like 10 names to it. And the reason it has 10 names to it is because we aren't all from one place. There's all of these different Native American cultures, there's all these different Aboriginal cultures, and they all had different, wherever they lived in the world, different things were happening. So if you were in North America, and like even like Canada to Florida in North America, right? Like those people in Canada in May are experiencing a very different life than those people in Florida in May. Like Canada, you're still deep in snow. Florida, you're like sweating already. So your full moon names, your Aboriginal cultures, your Native American cultures are probably going to have different full moon names for those because they were experiencing different times in life, right? So I just like, we see all this stuff and it's really, you gotta weed through it and just check in with yourself and be like, self, what do I know to be true? What do I know to be amazing and enlightening? And like whenever anybody says absolutely don't do this, red flag. And I would say that against anything spiritual that you do. You know, if it's reading tarot cards and somebody says absolutely don't do this, red flag, you know, because there are nobody, I mean, who created these rules? Nobody. We are trying to dissect, like we're trying to connect to ancient times, ancient ways of being that we don't know a lot about. And that's just bottom line. We don't know a lot about it. Like the Wheel of the Year even that we all practice. Like, don't get me wrong, I follow the Wheel of the Year, but the Wheel of the Year, it's a man-made construct. Like we took what we think are ancient practices and then we placed dates on them. Really, like, so Beltane is May 1st, right? Well, if it was a long, harsh winter, Beltane might not have been May 1st. If it was a really, if it was a, well, it probably wasn't. Like, it probably was never always May 1st, right? So it would have been, like, whenever it was just finally warm out. Like, that would have been Beltane. There wouldn't have been, like, oh, we're going to celebrate Beltane in 7 days. They don't know. Like, it's been warm for 3 days. Like, let's light the bonfire, man. The sun is back. Let's have a feast. The sun is back and we survived. You know, like, same with Samhain. With the equinoxes, so they did know, like, Mabon, they know the equinoxes, like I said, we know that civilizations had these structures, and only at the equinoxes would the light go through them. So we know that they marked the equinox, which would have been a time teller for them that, okay, we're moving into the cold months now, right? Or we're moving into the warm months because our equinox light has hit. But other than that, there's not, like, yeah, so I mean, it says May 1st here, could still have snow. Exactly. So really, like, if we're really going to be like, listen, I'm going to be my ancient self, or I'm going to, like, dig into those ancestral lineage pieces. Like, while I'm celebrating Beltane on May 1st here where I am in the US, it's warm out. It's, like, probably, like, typical Beltane sort of weather. Which would make sense because we synced up the Wheel of the Year with Gregorian, like, white people time tracking. So it makes sense where I am here that would be, like, fall right on May 1st. But for you, Amanda, maybe in Canada, like, the better time to celebrate Beltane would be, like, May 20th or something. I mean, or follow the Wheel of the Year and do it on May 1st, whatever you feel like. But whenever I see these, like, harbinger of doom things in the group, or, like, I go through comments sometimes and people are like, absolutely don't do this, doom and gloom will be upon your family for 13 years and 2 days, and I'm just like, man, that is not true, cut that out. So I thought I would just real quick, awesome, Isabel, my kid loves yoga. Kids love yoga. It's perfect for kids. So anyway, whenever people, I'm just always like, that is just not, it's just not true. It's just not true. Yeah, so, whenever you see somebody who's like, absolutely don't, or like crystals, if they're like, absolutely don't charge a crystal under whatever, I don't know, like Do you want to do that? Then do that. If you don't want to do it, don't do it. People get like real hyped up. And the same thing about signs and symbols and things too, you know, like, I don't know. So you come home and there's frogs all over your front door. Ask yourself a few questions. Do these frogs feel like a sign to me? Or was it just raining and I happen to have frogs in my yard all the time, so it makes sense that they'd be stuck to my front door right now? Like, I come home all the time and there's frogs everywhere, but I always have frogs all over my yard, so it doesn't always feel like a sign. One day, I woke up in the morning and there was a dead frog recently in the middle of my like landing area, like when I come out of my bedroom, and I was like, that is not typical. Like, I've lived here for 8 years. That was the first dead frog that I found in the middle of my house. I have no idea how it got in or why it was there, but that was not typical, right? And I was like, this feels like I need to think about this. But if I just come home and I see frogs everywhere outside, then I'm like, well, that makes sense because there's frogs all over my yard. Or like if I find feathers in my yard, if I find like a big hawk feather, like there's hawks that fly over my house all the time because there's rabbits and they like, you know, want to eat them. But if I found like, I don't know, if I found like some random swan feather in my yard, I don't know why I would, but that would be weird, right? That wouldn't be, I'd be like, whoa, this traveled quite some way to get here. But a hawk feather would be normal for me to find in my yard. So like when you, even like signs and symbols, think about it for you. Does it feel like it would make sense to you? If not, you know, then whatever. I don't know. Go with it. So let's see. So there's lots of comments. It's thank you guys for agreeing. Chrissy Lee says, so burning a letter to the universe by the blood moon is okay. Yes. Yes, it sure is. It sure is. In my humble opinion, it sure is. Lisa, way back in the day, they wouldn't have known the eclipse was in Iraq if they lived in... Yes, exactly. That's what I mean. That's what I was saying. Like, and then if you want to like connect to like your ancestral lineage and you figure out like, okay, so I am this thing, right? Like, so the eclipse is in Iraq, right? So if there happens to be an Iraqi here in the U.S. who is also a witch, and they were like, but they do a lot of ancestral work, like maybe they would have wanted to do something a little bit, like maybe for them they didn't want to honor, maybe they wanted to like just lay low on the eclipse because maybe for them that feels good, right? But if you think about like your ancestral lineage, like I'm, like I said, Irish, English, German, they wouldn't have known. They would have just been doing their same old full moon stuff they always do. Here in Connecticut, where I live in the U.S., I wouldn't have known to do the same full moon stuff I always do, right? And yeah, just like rock on with your badass magical self. So Lisa says, it seems everyone thinks everything is a sign. Yeah, you gotta like think about it. And sometimes signs too come. So a while ago, like I've been having a tough time with my husband, and his father passed a few years ago, and he passed unexpectedly. He was like, you know, mostly healthy, went to bed and passed in his sleep, like totally out of nowhere. And so I was just like meditating in my space. I had crystals in my journal and stuff, and I was like, Ted, if you are with us, please give me a sign. Please give me a sign that you're here. And I always ask like what I want the sign to be. And I said, if you're with us, show me a blue ribbon. And I looked for this blue ribbon, and I never saw a blue ribbon. And then I was in my backyard, and I saw a broken blue robin's egg. Blue robin. Got it? Blue ribbon, blue robin. I didn't think anything of it. I was like, still looking for this damn blue ribbon, because I was like, you've got to be here. Like, guide your son, man. Like, help me out. And so I found this broken blue robin's egg. And again, I've lived in this house for 8 years, and we spent all of our time out in our yard, right? And I've never seen a blue robin egg in my yard in 8 years of living here. But I didn't think anything of it. I was like, oh, I showed my kid. I was like, look at this. And then I was at my stepfather's house a few days later, and he has like a cement patio, and there was another one right in the middle of that. And I was like, oh, look, there's a robin's egg. He was like, oh, I've never seen one of those there before. And he's lived in his house for like, I don't know, probably 10 years, if not more, maybe 12 years. And he was like, oh, I've never seen one of those here. And that's when, like, in that moment, I had an aha moment. And I was like, well, Ted, if that's the best you can do, if you can get me a blue robin egg instead of a blue ribbon, then thank you for that. And I don't know if that, you know, but to me, like, in that moment, I was like, you're listening, you're here, thank you. Now if you could do something to help, that would be great. And I haven't seen one since. I saw those two, and once I kind of acknowledged that, they stopped. But sometimes signs, you know, they come in weird ways, and like I didn't take it as a sign. But you gotta like really, you know, dig into signs. It's never helpful to ask, you know, always like a group of strangers too, like what it might mean, because it's going to mean something personal to you. If I had asked this group what's the symbolism of a blue robin's egg, right, I would have got all sorts of things. Nobody would have said that's a sign from your father-in-law, because nobody knew that I asked for that. I didn't know it because I asked for a blue ribbon, but I'm still taking it as a sign. So let's see here. Erica asked what my full moon ritual was last night. So in our Enchanted Journey group, we did kind of some thoughts around false truths, and I set up like a few little crystals for us. So last night what I did was some more journaling on false truths, and then what I did was I made some tea, and while it was brewing, I kind of honored the transformation of the tea from dried herbs as it was changing into something else to like represent the changing of my false truth into my truth, right? And then I drank the tea with some candles and my crystals, and just was like, you know, focused on what it would be like to live in my total truth rather than my false truth. So that sounds super exciting. That's what I did. Had my kids in bed. My kids went to bed later than normal last night, so I got them to bed and then sat with myself and my transformative cup of tea. Let's see here. So it is a sign, yeah. Yeah. Anywho, that is my random musings for this morning. I was just I think on Instagram, I saw something else about the moons and the this and the that, and it's just like, you know, really now, nobody, and a lot of this stuff, it's stuff that we've attached meaning to, ourselves, you know, over time. There's not always evidence. I see this a lot with honoring the goddess on Friday the 13th. And again, that's not a thing that's like rooted in history. That's something that like recently, with the resurgence of like of goddess honoring and like stepping into our womanhood and the rise of the feminine, all this stuff, that's like a new thing again, which is fine to honor new things. That's totally fine. It's also fine. It's just you know, I think it's important to know, like, if we're like just to know where things come from. So always think of that. Where is this information coming from? You know, like, what can I learn about it? How can I learn more about it? What would, you know, what does my higher self feel like is true here? And go with that thing. Because nobody can really tell you what's going to work for you, because they're not you. Only you know what's going to work for you. Only your higher self knows what's going to work for you, your soul self. And you don't need to do anything else that anybody tells you is like, you know, scripture. Somebody tells you that, like I said, red flag. Walk away. So Deanna lost her 17-year-old bird last night. I'm so sorry. Do I think there's he was old, so we knew it was close, just not this close, and not last night. Well, I do think there's a connection. You know, Deanna, only you would know. Only you can tell that. But I mean, certainly, you know, I wouldn't say like to the full moon. The full moon is a lively energy time. Pets are hard though. You would know. Like, you know, I had a cat that was 21, and when he died, I took one look at him, and I was like, today's the day, and it was so hard. So hugs to you, my friend. So yeah. Anyway, that's it on my moon ramblings for this morning. Thank you guys for listening. Saturday morning. I appreciate it. And you can still, if you didn't do anything with the full moon last night, you still today do your full moon stuff today. And you know, get out there and do something crazy. So the full moon's a good time for. It's a good time for everything. Manifesting, release. It's like a party time, right? You can do anything at a party. You can celebrate life at a party. If somebody passed and you're grieving, that's why we get together with people, right? Because we're celebrating their lives. So you can celebrate release at a full moon. You can release, you can manifest. Like, you know, think of any which way that you would commune with people and party and like raise your energy in a good way, and that's everything, and you can do all of that at a full moon. So you still have that full moon energy going for you. I don't know if it's moved out of Aquarius. It was an Aquarius, which is also my moon sign. Maybe that's why I felt so good this week. And yeah, rock on with your bad self. So Christy Lee is in Australia, sat outside by the fire. My crystal wand, so lovely and positive energy. Yeah, and you know what? It doesn't have to be like a big thing either. You know, you can do like as much or as little as you want to do. I know I talk about this a lot, but the season of life that I'm in right now, most things I do are just like really simple and easy because my kids don't let me do anything fun. So, yeah. Rachel, my father-in-law, was just admitted to hospice this week. He's 49, so I know the pain, girl. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that, Rachel. That's young. All right. Well, again, thank you guys for listening about these moon misconceptions. I hope you enjoy your full moon, lunar eclipse and all the lunar eclipse, blood moon, whatever you want to call this moon. And like I said, you can still enjoy the full moon today. So happy Saturday, and I'll see you guys on Monday for our regularly scheduled Monday Magic Chat. All right. I hope you guys have a good one, and I'll talk to y'all soon. Bye.